Joining me now in studios, Congressman Gerald Nadler, Democrat of New York and ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, first, thank you for being with us tonight. Let's start with the demonstrations on college campuses, especially at Columbia, which lies just outside of your district, and where you were a student back in 1968 when student activists were cleared from Hamilton Hall by the NYPD after they took over the building to protest the school's participation in the Vietnam War and the segregated gym on campus. 2 years later, the nation watched the National Guard's shootings of the Vietnam War protesters at Kent State University. Today is the 54th anniversary of that conflict. As you watch what has been unfolding this week, what lessons do you think these past events can provide to people on all sides of the situation now?
Well, it's very simple. Free speech is a must, and people are entitled to say whatever they want, but they cannot do so when they start trampling on other people's rights. When you occupy a building, you are violating the civil liberties of the students and faculty who want to learn or teach there, and that is impermissible, and the police ought to take you out. If you are on the South Lawn at Columbia and expressing yourself, that's fine, until the university says, okay, now we need the South Lawn for the graduation ceremony. At that point, if you don't leave, you're trespassing, and you're violating the rights of students who want to have a commencement exercise.
Well, now, as you know, I have participated all my life in civil disobedience and even sat in trespassing in vehicles, went to jail 3 months for it. You accept civil disobedience, but not violence. And I've said the danger of that is that you cannot have violence not repudiated on both any side. I think the right wing will try to use the violence as their answer to when we criticize January 6th. There's no comparison. January 6th was trying to overthrow an election, and they actually assaulted police officers and all. But violence is violence. We must be morally consistent. At the same time, I want to ask you about a statement you made about what's going on in Israel in terms of your statement about, well, this week you said in the interview that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has, quote, gotten only one competitor for the worst Jewish leader in history, end of quote. That one competitor, I'd like you to explain, but it would be a traitorous king who invited the Romans to stay in power more than 2,000 years ago. Who was that? Who you were referring to? Still, you make it clear that you don't think that Netanyahu is committing a genocide against the Palestinian people. Explain your position.
Well, first of all, it was King John Hyrcanus II, and in order to help him in a factional dispute, he invited in the Romans.
Wow. In
the 1st century BC, and of course, you know the subsequent history. Netanyahu is doing everything he can to prolong the war, and he has several motives for doing that. Number one, when the war ends, he will have a commission of inquiry. Number two, when the war ends, he will have to explain why it took the IDF 12 hours to come 60 miles to the aid of the kibbutzim that are under attack.
12 hours.
12 hours. Number three, he will have to explain why prior to October 7th, he told Qatar to fund Hamas because he wanted to stand up Hamas as a counterweight to the Palestinian Authority to make sure there was never a Palestinian state. And finally, when the war is over, he will have to face felony charges, just like our own ex-president. So he has every motive for keeping the war going, and period. Now, it's not a genocide, because a genocide is a deliberate destruction of an entire group of people. Now, you can say that the Israelis are making unnecessary mass casualties, and that may very well be the case, but it's not a genocide.
But isn't the Israelis under Netanyahu, not Israel as itself, but under Netanyahu, going after all Palestinian people? Because many of the people being killed are not with Hamas. They're just Palestinians in Gaza.
As I said, I think they're being very careless about it. I think they're killing a lot of people they shouldn't be killing, and it's morally reprehensible. But it's not a genocide because there's no intention to destroy an entire group. They're not trying to kill all the Palestinians in the world.
Now, this week, the House overwhelmingly passed Republican-backed legislation to codify anti-Semitism in the federal law for the first time. You were one of the 91 members from both sides of the aisle who opposed the measure. As a Jewish member of Congress, one of the leading Jewish members of Congress, why did you vote against it?
Well, I not only voted against it, I led the opposition. It is a violation of free speech. The bill before us codified into law one definition that put forth by the International Holocaust Remembrance Association, IRA, and specifically excluded two other definitions, put forth the Jerusalem Declaration and the Nexus document, but they codified it into law. Even the chief author of the IRA definition, Kenneth Stern, said don't codify it into law because it can be violative of free speech. All of these provide examples of things which in context may show anti-Semitism, but putting it into law could say that under certain circumstances, criticism of Israel would be considered anti-Semitic, and that's a violation of free speech. And that's why the ACLU opposed it, and certain liberal Jewish groups opposed it too.
Now, another drama.
And let me say one other thing. It did nothing. It did nothing to fight anti-Semitism. If you want to fight anti-Semitism, there are two things you can do. One, there's a bill by Kathy Manning and a lot of Republicans and Democrats in both houses that will set up structures to effectuate the president's all of government approach to anti-Semitism. And two, you increase the funding for the Office of Civil Rights that is in charge of enforcing Title VI against discrimination on campus. And the president has suggested or proposed a 25% increase last year. The Republicans proposed a 25% decrease. It was flat. And the same fight is going on now for the next year.
Now, another drama playing out that I want to get to while I have you is playing out in the House is the Republican civil war over Mike Johnson's speakership. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene says she's moving forward next week with a vote to oust Johnson. House Democrats have said they will come to his rescue. Do you believe that will happen?
I suspect that she won't actually carry through on the threat, but we are right that if she does, we should save him, because as much as we disagree with him on everything, almost everything, we can't permit him to be punished for doing the right thing, voting for the Ukraine aid, which is what they want to punish him for.
Now, let's finish on former President Donald Trump. The second week of testimony in his hush money trial ended with former members of his White House staff appearing to further confirm accounts that the alleged hush money payment to Stormy Daniels was known about in his Oval Office. As House Judiciary's ranking Democrat, what have you taken from what you've heard so far?
So far, what I've heard confirms in every respect and is building the case that he was paying the hush money in order to keep it quiet for the election purposes. He signed the checks to Michael Cohen. We know that. Michael Cohen will testify to that, I'm sure. And by signing those checks and calling them legal expenses, that's fraud, and which is a misdemeanor. But that fraud for the purpose of affecting the election makes it a felony.
Right.
And they're establishing, and Hope Hicks's testimony and Pecker's testimony establishes very well, as I'm sure Cohen will say the same thing, that it was for the purpose of affecting the election. Now, Cohen is a difficult witness because he has lied on other things, and they will try to impeach his testimony. But the testimony by Hicks and by Pecker and by Davidson all corroborates what I'm sure Cohen will say. So
and the actual check signed by Donald Trump to him, whereas if it's legal expenses, no one ever explained, well, what legal work did he do for that exact amount of money?
That's right.
So this is going to be very interesting. Thank you for being with us, as always, Congressman Jerry Nadler.